Season 2 Finals. I'm Nathaniel. Joining me is Rotterdam. We're going to be bringing you guys coverage here on the B stream of the secondary matches that will be taking place for Group A and B today.
Yes, Nate. It's been a while since we've been standing next to each other, and what better place is there to be reunited over here at the Season 2 Finals. This is one event that everyone has been looking forward to for a very long time. You know, Season Finals, they're always great on its own. Everybody wants to be part of the Season Finals. You always know you're going to see some great matches guaranteed. Lots of prize money will be given away. Lots of WCS points on the line. But we're finally back in Canada as well. The moment, you know, we heard this already quite a few months ago. It's like, guys, Season 2 Finals is going to be happening in Toronto. And from that point on, we're like, man, it's going to be sick. And I know it is going to be sick.
It's going to be absolutely awesome. The players that are here, the matchups, everything's looking pretty sick. Especially, you know, the group that we're going to be starting with is going to be pretty intense as well. Some of the, you could say, I think a lot of people agreed, one of the tougher groups out of all of them, especially for, well, one of the players that we're going to have in our first match today.
Yes, I mean, the moment that this group got drawn, it was first Bunny, and people are like, okay, who's Bunny going to play? Then second player is like Hydra. People are like, well, okay, that's going to be kind of a classic. Then third player was ForGG. Everyone's like, oh my god. And then last but not least, it was GunGFuBanDa, the last player to make it into the round of 16. He was actually in the studio with me while those groups were being drawn. And you could just see him peek over when he heard his name, and he looked at the group, and you saw his face, and he just kind of smiled. He's like, well, you know, I've got my work cut out for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, GunGFuBanDa having to go up against ForGG. And you look at this group, everybody outside of GunGFuBanDa who's making his first big appearance here, they all finished very well in the last season, and they all had a lot of really, really close matchups, especially even ForGG, who out of all these players made it the least far, lost to the guy that ended up winning it all, Polt.
I'm actually so surprised to see ForGG only at WCS rank 26 with that amazing start he had at DreamHack in the start of the year. And then, of course, you know, he's been doing okay in a couple of the other tournaments. He had an okay run in Season 1. You almost forget that ForGG came into Season 1 as the overwhelming favorite. Everybody thought ForGG or Hydra. You know, we were on the Hydra train. Most other people were on the ForGG train. Suddenly, Polt comes along. He's like, guys, I've did this twice already. I'm going to win the third time as well. I mean, this is one hell of a group. Bunny vs. Hydra is going to be happening on the mainstream, and Nate and I will be covering GunGFuBanDa against ForGG. Definitely the story of David vs. Goliath, but I think David did win that battle, right?
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. It's a very interesting group because, you know, just even, you know, GunGFuBanDa being the new player and all, this is a lot at stake for the other three players that are competing here as far as actually getting to the global finals later this year. Like if ForGG gets deep enough, he could potentially put himself, you know, into that top 16, in that top 16 range. You've got Hydra, who's mostly trying to lock it down. You know, like if he flopped out, then it'd be a surprise to us, but it could complicate things.
And Bunny is the front man for the dreams of, let's have a foreigner at BlizzCon, guys. Let's at least have one non-Korean at BlizzCon if that would be possible. And he still has a very good shot at it. There are a couple other Europeans that are still going very strong. I think for North Americans it's going to be very difficult this year. But there are still a few Europeans who have a very realistic shot at making it towards the end of the year. But they have to perform here. We've got plenty of the Europeans in action over the weekend. But Bunny, he's currently the highest ranked non-Korean player in the world. He's going to be playing in this group, and he needs to make a deep run.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to get into that spot so that he can use Season 3 to secure that position. He's the guy that a lot of people are going to be looking out for in this tournament as far as WCS points go. But still, you know, ForGG is also someone that we really have to keep a close eye on, especially being, you know, the player that we're going to be looking at in this first match. He's, you know, ranked 25.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
It's not a safe spot because we've seen, especially with the way that the GSL and the Spanish Star League have been going, like with those tournaments still having a couple of finals left. I think there's at least 3-4 more finals that are going to be played out over the next few months. Like there's a lot more WCS points that will be distributed in the Korean scene, and really only need 1 or 2 players to step up. If you're in that 16th, 15th spot, that's a really dangerous place to be.
And if your name is ForGG and you look at this year and you come off a DreamHack victory where you defeated multiple of the top Koreans, like even live, for instance, you know, you look at this and you know you have 3 WCS seasons this year. You cannot possibly imagine yourself not making it to BlizzCon at the end of the year. But that is only a very realistic possibility. But of course, you know, everything can change over here in the weekend. 3 days of non-stop StarCraft action. And if ForGG does what we know that ForGG is capable of, he can make a very deep, very solid run over here, and he can gather a lot of points for himself. And it's going to have to start right here in this first best of 3 of the day against the German kind of wild card, I'd like to say, GunGFuBanDa.
Yeah, GunGFuBanDa has been an interesting player to follow. You know, when I talk to other European players about him, it's like he's good. He's not as from what I hear, it's not like he's put on the same pedestal as someone like Lilbo, but he's had some interesting results. Most recent that comes to my mind as far as offline performance goes, especially against Korean Terrans. He had a 3-4 loss to MMA in the Fragbite Masters Finals last December, but that's a long time ago. And how much offline practice do you really get against Koreans when there's so much on the line?
That was definitely his breakout performance, right? That was the moment where he truly set himself on the map. I think he participated in Home Story Cup 10 as well, and he's been around for a while. But it's funny because if most people say German Protosses, in the old days it was always Haselhoffs, always Zocker. And then those two kind of fell off a little bit. They started playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm. But the one name that has been in the spotlight mostly has been Showtime. Showtime has been getting a lot of recognition from his fellow Protosses in Europe and even from the other races. But GunGFuBanDa, he's been around. He's still so young, only 17 years old. Nate, man. When I was 17, Nate, I was a very, very, very mediocre Warcraft 3 player. He's already in Canada playing on the big stage.
I think I was still just playing my custom games in Brood War. Didn't even know what the word macro and micro meant, Roddy. And he has such a difficult road ahead of him coming in. One of the least experienced players as far as big offline tournaments like this go. GunGFuBanDa, I don't think when he gets that opportunity to potentially play on the big stage, I don't think he's going to have any experience like that to really compare to.
No, it's definitely going to be some nerves into play. But to his credit, he played very solid in the round of 32. I actually think he had an extremely solid performance in a very crazy group. But it's going to have to be even better than this, better than that performance today. Going up against ForGG in his first best of 3, it's going to be one hell of a task, one hell of an uphill battle. Because this man, Nate, he came here to have a deep run. Semi-finals, finals, anything else is just a disappointment for him.
Yeah, this is what you really could say this should be ForGG's year. You brought up the DreamHack victory. You look at the competition across the board for WCS as far as a lot of the Koreans going back to playing in the GSL, in the SSL, and ForGG finds himself playing against still mostly Europeans moving through these brackets. He's had those performances to be able to get this far. But it's still, not exactly been the most smooth road for him, especially considering, as we mentioned earlier, the series he lost against Pult. For this series, we're going to go Cactus Valley, then to Expedition Loss, and then Infernal Pools if we were to go to map 3.
I'm actually so surprised at this map pool. And for the people who wonder, why? What is so surprising about this? I feel that these are all pretty damn good Terran maps. I'm surprised. If I take a look at the vetoes of GunGFuBanDa real quick, Vani Resource Station, that is a veto I do understand because of the pocket expand. That is great for drops, but Cactus Valley is such a large map that if you want to play this very straight up, you go for a Mothership Core into an expand, you're going to give the Terran a lot of freedom. Medevacs are going to be flying in from every angle. It can be very, very difficult to defend on that map. And the final map is no different. It's Infernal Pools, another map with a lot of area space or airspace around it where Medevacs cannot just fly in. They can even idle behind your bases. So I think it's a very tricky map pool for GunGFuBanDa, but we know he's a Protoss that's not afraid to think out of the box, and he's going to need that as well this series.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting with that set of maps, especially you bringing up Cactus Valley, of course, having those big drop opportunities, especially with how large the main base is, with how exposed the third base is. Perhaps this means that GunGFuBanDa is going to be bringing some aggressive strategies out. I think it goes without saying that in a group like this, GunGFuBanDa should be expected to go all out. This isn't a scenario where you're given enough credit, I would say, to be able to go in and I'm going to play straight up macro against ForGG, against Hydra, against Bunny. But it looks like actually the first map that we're going to actually be starting this series off is Echo. I think a bit more of a standard map that we would expect to see in a series like this.
It's great to see, Nate, that the things that surprise us are actually surprising, and we're in this case a little bit incorrect. Echo is a much more straightforward map. I think it's a pretty solid map for Protoss, especially if you knock down those cooling towers. It's relatively easy to stabilize on 3 bases. There's a little bit of wiggle room for Blink Stalkers as well. It's not the best Blink Stalker map out there, but you can be annoying. Maybe you can get a tech lab, maybe you can snipe in, get a couple SCVs or a medevac or 2 if you put observers in good positions. From the Protoss point of view, it's a very doable map.
Yeah, when I think about Terran versus Protoss on this map, if ForGG doesn't ramp up the aggression very quickly himself and the Protoss can establish on 3 bases, you have that you have basically one choke point that we'll show you guys later in the game as well, between the natural and the third base. If the Protoss can defend there after knocking down those rocks, and with just one observer basically or something to spot anything that comes towards those rocks to open that path up, being able to defend one position, like that's the Protoss dream.
Now, we've already been talking a little bit. Like, if you're GunGFuBanDa, you're not going into this. You know what? I'm going to check every corner of the map to see if this ForGG guy is doing something sneaky. Because if he doesn't, I'm going to be in good position. Like, mostly it's the other way around, right? Like, ForGG is going to check everywhere, where GunGFuBanDa is most likely going to cut a corner or two to try to somehow get himself in an advantageous position. Echo is not really the map for that, though. You know, as good of a Protoss map it is.
But maybe that's why, you know, we could always go back on that. Maybe that's why he finds a way to make it work. The rush distance is reasonably short if he tries to go for a fast gateway. Things to look at in this series with our Protoss player as an underdog. Look for the early aggression and be very careful of how this man does his scouting work. In the top left position of Echo, we have our first player here participating in Group A. He is Millennium's ForGG.
And on the right bottom side of Echo, we've got the last player to qualify for the round of 16, but he did it out of a crazy group. It is the German Protoss GunGFuBanDa. All right, Nate, that pylon already scares me a little bit. For some reason, I don't find that a normal pylon. If you guys wonder why, well, it's just a little bit too far north.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he's looking to either hide things or set something up to maybe block a Reaper scout or something of that sort from running around his base.
That is an early scout.
Yeah, so, you know, it looks like ForGG may be attempting to play off of any nerves that GunGFuBanDa may have in a stage like this. With an SCV moving out this early, his only intention, it has to be cheese. He has to go for a very aggressive proxy structure outside of GunGFuBanDa's base.
So, you're the Terran expert over here, Nate. I am not 100% sure what to think of it. Are you expecting Reapers?
Reaper, yeah, Reaper, 100%. There's the gas. ForGG's looking to make this play something that will play off of GunGFuBanDa being nervous. This is one of those situations where, and I'm sure as a Protoss player, you've experienced this. Your opponent brings this type of early aggression. You're trying to micro your workers away. You're trying not to have those losses. But if you do lose anything, you can very quickly get frustrated or very quickly lose your cool. And that's ForGG using his competitive experience, all the experience of playing on so many big stages. He's not really nervous in a situation like this.
It would be absolutely massive for the German Protoss if that probe would somehow go up that ramp, but it won't. It's going to go the other way around, but at least it's still something. This does mean, Nate, that he has a scout out. He's going to be able to enter the main base, and he's going to see like, hey, there's no barracks over here, so something weird is happening. That's going to still give him a couple of seconds, most likely, you know, to somehow adjust to this. I don't think he's going to start up a Zealot. He's most likely just looking for a Mothership Core fast expand.
Yeah. I think in this scenario it would make a lot of sense. So GunGFuBanDa now is going to get his first inkling that something is wrong. He comes up, he sees the second supply depot, preparing to wall off since ForGG won't have any defenses. And ForGG actually immediately takes second gas. I'm not sure if that's just to deny him from taking it. I wouldn't expect to see him proxy a factory too. He's trying to get inside of his head a little bit.
I think it may actually be a small trick as well. GunGFuBanDa is going to start up the Zealot. Now, Zealots are not fantastic against the Reapers, but what it will do is at least force the Terran to take care of that Zealot and, you know, avoid it at all costs. It would be so amazing if the Protoss is somehow able to get a surround. First probe goes down, but ForGG needs more than just 1 or 2 probes. He needs to get, I would say, 4 or 5, Nate, with an opening like this.
Now, I mean, ForGG didn't cut many workers to make this happen, so getting the 2 probe kills is nice. He has the Mule especially since he managed to get that orbital command up. And he's actually going to follow this up with a factory, so he's looking to keep the aggression going. It's in his main base, but it looks like it's just going to be this Reaper play into a very fast Widow Mine drop, and then building off the aggression from there, really not giving GunGFuBanDa any peace of mind and forcing him to make the wrong moves in a stressful, tense situation.
I would love to see GunGFuBanDa play this out very safe. Just focus on workers, get a couple of stalkers out. Oh man, these Reapers are doing serious work. That is probe number 5 that has gone down already. 5 probes in a 5-minute game. Right now, ForGG is up 1 worker. Of course, with the Stalker out, this aggression is going to stop for now. But it's very important for GunGFuBanDa that he focuses on what is next. You know, what can I expect? He saw that second refinery go down. He can't, of course, be 100% sure that it is going to be a factory follow-up, but he may expect it. Just play it safe. Don't expand like a crazy person right now. Just get detection out as quick as possible.
Yeah, I mean, running in and getting another probe kill. The biggest threat that these Reapers present on the map for GunGFuBanDa is, you know, it's the wolf waiting outside the fence. He can't leave his base without risking his probes being attacked by those Reapers. If he moves out, you know, ForGG will punish him for it. He knows everything about where GunGFuBanDa's army's positioned.
Yep, I think this is the first Reaper that is going to go down over here, as the Mothership Core will get the final hit, so that is finally one kill or 1 small blow in GunGFuBanDa's favor. Now this is very interesting. I'm not sure if this was the plan all along, But this may just be like, okay, this game is not going as expected. If I expand right now, my detection is going to be very late. I can't just be defending, because if I only defend for the next 3, 4, 5 minutes, I will never win this game because I'm going to fall too far behind. 8 workers have gone down, all 3 Reapers have gone down, but this Stargate could very well be the equalizer.
Yeah, in this situation, GunGFuBanDa seems to be attempting to play off of ForGG maybe being overconfident in the amount of damage that he did at the start of the game. He does not have an engineering bay. He cannot build a missile turret. So if an Oracle finishes and gets into his mineral line without any defenses like a Widow Mine prepared, or for example this Viking that ForGG has just started, he could get caught off guard and lose a lot of SCVs very quickly.
I like that Viking a lot. It's like ForGG is sort of...
It'll still take a little time for that Viking to kill him. I think he can get a lot of SCV kills with this Oracle.
But it's something. It's great that he at least has non-stop damage output right now, because other than that, he doesn't really have any anti-air. The Rexes are just finishing up. He's just starting to produce his first few Marines, so it's very nice that he at least has that constant DPS on an Oracle as soon as it comes out. This Widow Mine is going to burrow, and this Widow Mine is going to do a lot of damage. Unless he focus fires it with all of his units. The mine, he's going to get the mine. That is big. That's really big.
Very important to know. The only access for detection to see that burrowed Widow Mine in his mineral line would have been this Oracle, which he needs to get aggressive with. And here it comes. Let's see what he can do. That Viking's not covering the mineral line, immediately getting to work.
Oh my god!
Well, the hidden Widow Mine gets him.
I didn't see it. I didn't even know it was there.
I didn't even see it, man.
Where did it come from?
He tucked it in. He tucked it in, put it to sleep, and then it woke up right in time.
Well, this is now a quite disastrous start for GunGFuBanDa. The only thing you can say is, like, look at ForGG. He's still on 1 orbital command as well. He's most likely going to follow this up with some crazy 1 base push, which almost makes us ask the question, what year is this, Nate? The second Oracle is out as well, but there are 2 Vikings out that's going to usher this Oracle away from now. And I'm not even sure what I would do if I was GunGFuBanDa. Like, what are you supposed to do right now with your weak 1 base Protoss economy?
It's so stressful because he makes the investment into the Oracle and it getting immediately snapped up. If you think about his options, the best counter to the tank play is going to be Immortals, but can he afford to get enough out in time?
Okay, I said weak 1 base economy. I didn't know he had the second Nexus. I just thought he didn't have the probes to saturate it. But actually, 34 workers is not all that bad. The mine will take care of this Oracle as well, not before losing 2 more SCVs though. So ForGG has to do a lot of work with this push. GunGFuBanDa is perhaps going to try to intercept this push, maybe drop a couple of force fields on the ramp. Like, as good as this game has gone for ForGG, this needs to work. Otherwise, we're looking at 2 base against 1 base.
Yeah, the economy advantage that GunGFuBanDa has, if he can stop this push without losing his workers, will be monstrous compared to a 1 base Terran. So ForGG, he's put all of his chips in 1 basket. Now, this is still a very formidable force, but there's the Photon Overcharge. As he gets closer to the Nexus, it can fire, and he's got the Immortal to hit the siege tank.
Oh my god, he's actually a really good force field. He gets those Marines for free. He loses 1 tank. Of course, there's still a lot of Marines behind this. That Widow Mine took care of one of the Zealots. I wouldn't walk down there. You don't have to do that. I mean, with Guardian Shield, maybe. The Immortal's very exposed. It will get the tank, though, but at what cost?
He's stepping forward. He's trying to get it, but another force field locks him away. The Photon Overcharge still active. ForGG's next push is coming across, building 5 Marines at a time, but, you know, that 1 base economy runs out of steam eventually.
Yeah, it's actually starting to look better and better for GunGFuBanDa. Worth mentioning is that the Vikings did take care of the Mothership Core. So that means the moment that Photon Overcharge runs out, he's going to lose a lot of the DPS that he currently has going for himself. What would you do if you're GunGFuBanDa right now? Warp in extra sentries or just go for the straight-up army engagement?
I mean, maybe you could try to split him on the ramp. He's got the Immortal running up front to take those siege tank shots as they have the hardened shield ability, but as the Marines get cleaned up, it really allows the Stalkers to get nice and close, but he's got the Widow Mine also buying him a bit of buffer space if you were to try to push that tank.
But there's just almost no units over here for ForGG. He's still on 52 supply, but the majority of it feels like it's workers. Those mines, they can still do a lot of damage. There is no detection on the map whatsoever, so this 1 mine is very important. If we would be able to get that medevac, that's big. I like it a lot that ForGG is bringing a couple of SCVs, but our German Protoss, he's handling this so well, Nate. He's just being patient, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's like, hey, the clock is ticking on you, not on me. I'm outmining you right now.
Yeah, GunGFuBanDa has no pressure to push in, and now that he has a couple of Immortals, he will just step forward. One of them focus fires on the siege tank. The Stalkers pick off the medevac. The brunt of this army is gone, and GunGFuBanDa takes a phenomenal advantage with the 2 base economy. ForGG has still not even started an expansion. He cleans house, and GunGFuBanDa picks up game number 1.
Wow. Well, that is one hell of a way to start the Season 2 finals over here on the B stream, Nate. This is a result that not a whole lot of people expected, including myself. Of course, the series is not over yet. It's just 1 map, but that is a great start. You know, ForGG kind of doing what we expected the other way around. We expected our German Protoss to maybe throw out something crazy, open up, you know, rather unorthodox, tried to do something cheesy. Instead, he was the one opening up rather safe. It was ForGG bringing the aggression with first the Reapers, then the mine follow-up. But he just couldn't really get it together. He got a lot of workers early on. It seemed like it was going his way. And if that mine burrows, then you're looking at a completely different ballgame. Because like you mentioned, the Oracle that was supposed to deal damage on the other side of the map then has to go all the way back home to provide detection. Otherwise, that mine is going to shoot 2, 3, 4 times. And you lose a bunch of probes. But a German Protoss, man, he's not all that shaken up. He just handled it very well. Had to face a very weird build. But he did what a Protoss is supposed to do. And that just keep calm and build pylons.
Yeah, I mean, the investment that ForGG made into that aggressive push really set him into an awkward spot. And I think this comes back to talking about the difference between these two players. ForGG, the very experienced veteran, I think opening up with an aggressive proxy like that, I think that, you know, for the most part, it did what it needed to do. It threw GunGFuBanDa off a bit, delayed his expansion by a very long time. He killed a good number of probes, but ForGG's follow-up was saying, you know, I'm perhaps a bit too confident in this scenario. And GunGFuBanDa, even though, you know, you can kind of see a little bit, and we know that he's a lesser experienced player in these scenarios, he really held himself together well. He's like, I know exactly what I need to do to defend this. He scouted everything, even though he lost the Oracle. He said, okay, just hold off, get the Immortals out, and I can do this.
It's funny, because it felt like a lot of things were not going his way, but he still made the best of what he had. He had very few units. He had a couple of Stalkers, and instead of just sitting at home and letting yourself get contained and let those tanks siege up, he went out immediately. He got a couple of free shots off, and every shot on a mechanical unit counts, because at the first there were no SCVs to repair, so that is real damage that you're doing. And then the very first moment that ForGG tried to peek up that ramp, he dropped force fields, he got 2, 3, 4 Marines, and he got that first tank. And I think, you know, that slowed the push down so much, which gave him time to get his Immortal count up, get Immortals in good position to only shoot at tanks, because it's a world of difference if your Immortal does 20 damage on the Marine or 50 on a tank. He just handled it very well.
When you're playing in a position like that, the tanks are supposed to keep the Stalkers away, because your Marines don't have the upgrades they need to fight the Gateway Army. And the Marines are supposed to defend the tanks against the Immortals. And just those, you mentioned it perfectly, the force fields to get all the Marines isolated was the perfect move. And now we're loaded into game number 2. We have to see if our Terran player can bring it back. We are loaded into Coda in the bottom right position as the red Terran player representing Team Millennium. He's ForGG.
And over here on the left top side of the map, we've got our perhaps wild card of the tournament. And so far, he's definitely living up to the name of the dark horse. It is GunGFuBanDa. I can't believe it, Nate. He's up 1-0. 1-0 already over ForGG, one of the absolute favorites for the entire tournament. A DreamHack champion, quarter finalist of Season 1, a man that we expect to make it to BlizzCon. And once again, this group is, you know, you don't mess around with this group. You don't lose the first best of 3 and think you're going to be okay. Because even if you lose this series, you're going to go up against the loser of Bunny versus Hydra. Who wants to play for his tournament live against Bunny or Hydra already in the second series of the day? Nobody.
That's a nightmare and a half to deal with in this position. Like, you, even if you're favored, if you're like, okay, well, ForGG had really good results, but both of the other two players in this group outside of this match finished way better than him. So it's a very scary position to be in. And ForGG, this game is going to play much more conservatively, opening up with the barracks, with the quick gas. So it's a Reaper opening, but from his own base, he'll be able to recover in any sort of defensive manner if he's not able to make anything happen, or if GunGFuBanDa were to be aggressive towards him.
You know, we could analyze game 1 a little bit, as we don't have an analyst panel over here, so we can't really go over those games too much. I kind of feel that ForGG's opening, you know, it was fine. I think the Reapers did what they were supposed to do, and I think his build would have been so much better if he would have just dropped the command center behind it.
Yeah, going for the second barracks, really, like, that was kind of what I was touching on when I was really going over, like, ForGG being overconfident perhaps against a player that should be experiencing those nerves to a greater degree, saying, well, I can probably finish him off if I just build an extra barracks and go right into tanks. And it's like, okay, well, that, you know, that all sounds fine and dandy, but, you know, GunGFuBanDa played solid enough, and against someone who can, you know, react properly, strategies like that are not popular for a reason.
I mean, there's a very limited time you can stick around as a 1-base Terran against, you know, first a 1.5 base Protoss, because, you know, you can't really count the second base.
But
but like slowly but steady, more and more pros were coming out, and suddenly you're looking at 36, 40 workers.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind the Mine Drop also got shut down completely.
Didn't do
absolutely
anything.
nothing.
But on the other hand, I still felt like the fact that he lost so little against both Oracles. Should have normally put him in a good position. That's why I was so surprised, because I kind of felt that things were going ForGG's way. The Reapers did a reasonable amount of damage, you know, 5, 6, 7 workers in total. 8 in the end. I'm not sure if that was only the Reapers. And then like the first Oracle flies straight into a mine. The second Oracle flew into a different mine. It just kind of felt like everything was going his way. This Reaper should get a probe kill, by the way, easily. That Mothership, where's the Mothership core? Why is it so late, Nate?
I'm not actually sure. I mean,
This is bizarre.
He squeezed out that Nexus pretty fast. He had the gas for the Mothership core, but it seems like GunGFuBanDa is playing a little bit on the greedier side in this setup. And actually, this many probe kills off of a non-aggressive opening.
This is massive,
Yeah, this is cash money for ForGG right now. He's actually managed to get a lot of
work.
work
Oh my god,
done.
he's not even done yet, because it's just a Mothership core, so you could still sneak in. Maybe in like one more probe is in transit over there. What a phenomenal start over here for game number 2. And that kind of takes away some of the momentum. Like, he's going to get one more probe over here, Nate. That's a free kill.
If I'm a Terran player and I pick up 5 probe kills with a Reaper expand build, I'm fist pumping in the air, Roddy. This is a phenomenal start for ForGG. He's built up a really nice advantage at the beginning of this game.
I know what you're doing then, Nate. You start singing Taylor Swift songs. That's how happy you are.
Yeah, all of them.
I've seen you do it before. That's when I sing Drake.
That's we get the most hype going.
Hey, there's one more probe out on the map as well, which I think ForGG just spotted because it's a scouting probe. This really sucks in so many ways for GunGFuBanDa. Not only is this just a terrible scenario as a Protoss to be in, losing this many workers early on, let's not forget that it also takes away all of the momentum that he built up. Game number 1, he faces the unorthodox build. He's like, this guy actually has to cheese against me or something. And then he shuts it down, does everything so well. You must be going into game number 2 with so much confidence. And then this is how game number 2 starts. It's just like, oh man, can't believe that this happened.
Now, ForGG is still going to invest quite a bit into the aggressive play here, going for a quick Marauder and also concussive shells. So what ForGG is doing is delaying his stim pack upgrade, so the mid-late game tech is going to be much later. Also delaying the factory since he only is mining off of 1 gas. And he's looking to make a big aggressive push with just his bio units early on.
I kind of like that, because he's going to force out a photon overcharge extremely early. Look at his Twilight console follow-up as well. Yeah. That's just not nice, because Twilight units are not that great early on against 3-Rex. I think this is a very smart follow-up for ForGG. He's most likely going to force out the photon overcharge and then back off, or he will just commit and sacrifice his units on even more probes. I feel either is good. But if he just forces out the photon overcharge right now and he comes back in 50 seconds...
There's no sentries. What if he kills the Stalker and pushes the main ramp? Like, how aggressive is he going to get? He steps forward. The Marauder will die.
But it soaks up all the shots.
Yeah, but he just runs up the main ramp. The Reaper goes up too. He kills one of the Stalkers. There's only one other Stalker in the main base. Warp Gate is not ready. He has a single sentry in production. That's not going to kill 6 Marines. He may have to pull probes in this scenario.
He should be able to get 4 or 5 probes again over here. Number 1 probe goes down, 2, 3, 4... 5 probes again. The Stalker is low on HP. Oh god, this is a disaster for GunGFuBanDa.
Yeah, ForGG gets everything he could have possibly wanted out of this opener, starts to take his gas, moves into the factory, the stim, and these Marines are just parading around. He doesn't have any units that can actually contest this, so the probes aren't even mining anymore.
And look at the amount of lost mining time as well, like you mentioned, Nate. 2 more probes are very low on HP. 12 workers have gone down.
Oh my goodness.
He might even get one more. 13? 14? No.
That
13 it is. I mean, take a look at the amount of workers that have been killed throughout this game. That's ridiculous. 18 workers in an 8-minute TvP. If you don't watch a whole lot of StarCraft, extremely unconventional.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those workers, just going across the span of this game, 40 minerals a minute times 18, it gets the numbers scale very, very quickly, Roddy. And now the tech that's going to allow ForGG to compete in the mid-game is all getting in place. GunGFuBanDa is getting Blink, but he lacks anything that can deal with an upgraded biological army.
Yeah, and let's not forget that there's already concussive shells as well, so Blink Stalkers are going to have a very hard time. Most of the time when Protoss players have a horrible early game like this, they'll be like, alright, you know what, to hell with this game, I'm going to barely saturate my bases and just make a strong 2-base Blink Stalker attack. But, you know, the first Marauder, ForGG should really get some Marauders. I thought he had Marauders out. It's like, come on, mate. The only thing that you can possibly face right now are Blink Stalkers. If you get 3, 4, 5 Stim Marauders out, that party is over. With Marines only, the Blink Stalker dream will always be alive. It's still very difficult because he's so far behind economically. But we've seen Blink Stalkers do crazier things than, you know, a bunch of Marines.
And we've seen players in behind scenarios also throw up Dark Shrines, and that's why ForGG put a missile turret up in front of his natural. He's like, well, I know I could lose to this if I didn't prepare, but it doesn't seem like he's considered that option that you've mentioned as much.
I actually think he's expecting Dark Templars. I think you're spot on there. And I still think he's going to be fine, though. I'm not going to sell this as like, oh, everything that ForGG did doesn't matter anymore because he's fighting against Blink Stalkers now. That's not going to happen. He's dropping another command center. Like, if ForGG has 3 or 4 Marauders right now, this game is over. right now, if I'm GunGFuBanDa, like, this is the best case scenario. Let's not ignore those sentries, Nate. He could drop force fields. Guardian Shield, Blink Stalker, and Force Fields could do miraculous things against Tim Marines.
He's loaded up 20 supply now flying out of his base, so he has a pretty small army, all things considered. And with those Force Fields that you mentioned, he could actually lock the bunker away from being repaired by any SCVs.
Okay, but the thing is, though, even if GunGFuBanDa kills the natural 4G, 4G is going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the map. There is not even a mothership core there either. If I was 4G right now, I'd abandon the low ground. Just send everything up to the high ground. Like, come on, just abandon, right? Like, you can't fight this, so just abandon it all. Lift up the orbital.
He shouldn't be able to bust this. Like, he could pull the SCVs if he wants, but he does have 2 Marauders now. So gonna be well, if the missile turret kills the mothership core, then it's a whole different story.
I still don't think he's going to try to fight with SCVs and Sim Marauders. It's of course doable, but I feel like 4G is making this harder on himself than it should be. A couple of Marines stimmed way too many times in the back of the army, so those Marines will die immediately. This is very annoying for GunGFuBanDa because he knows he's going to lose everything at home. But these
the Zealots are all choked up behind the Stalkers, so they're actually not able to get on these SCVs. So it's tricky because he cleans house here. The command center can always lift off, but that Nexus is dead.
GunGFuBanDa needs to unpower all the pylons as soon as possible. Oh, that's a very expensive blink as he loses 3 or 4 Stalkers immediately. And in this phase in the game, Nate, every unit that's worth its weight in gold. He's going to force the photon overcharge, or the recoil, excuse me. So now you could say it's 1 base against 1 base, but this is still a much better scenario for 4GG.
Yeah, a lot of these mirrors every stim, he actually jumps forward and gets one of the medevacs, but it must be... it's something that's very important to be noted again.
This one as well. He's going to get it. Oh my god, he gets both.
I mean, GunGFuBanDa has to just push right now. If he tries to rebuild, he's going to rebuild the Nexus. Does he? I feel like 4GG's army scales so much better on low supply. I'm not really sure.
Man, 4GG is playing with fire over here, Nate. I felt like he was in an unlosable position, and he's really laughing in the face of danger once again, but that could actually backfire. He has a couple of Marauders.
Reminds me of Game 1.
With a big forward blink. Look at the amount of stocks, man. Like, this is 34 army supply against 33. How is this game suddenly close, Nate?
He steps forward. He's trying to focus down those very expensive Marauders. The medevacs are still healing from behind, but there's the blink control case. Steps back again. Now he grabs a few.
Vision.
Yeah, he doesn't have the...
If he had high ground vision there, I really think that GunGFuBanDa could have won that fight. But you could really see the Stalkers derp a little bit.
And now mines are going to be added into the mix. So
they're going to take care of the Zealots, and that's good enough. They don't need to shoot at the Stalkers. They just need to take care of the Zealots.
Yep, and now he doesn't have that high ground vision once again. 4GG just stims down the ramp, picks off a few more of them. Now he's really secured an army big enough to contest what GunGFuBanDa has.
Yeah. Now, from this point on, 4G should be more than fine. He's severely outmining his opponent. He has a stronger army. He's dealing way more damage. He's going to take the fight outside of his base, and he's just going to win game number 2 like that. But Nate, like, what is going on with this series? These games are playing out so different than I thought they would play out.
It's been pretty weird so far, to say the least. GunGFuBanDa did cancel his Nexus in the natural, by the way, also worth noting. So he was as all in as you could really be in that scenario. But 4GG keeps making these moves where he's like, I'm pretty much, losing this game would be really hard right now, so let's take a big risk. And then he kind of throws it away, which is how I feel like almost happened in Game 2, and I feel like a lot of that played into Game 1 as well.
Yeah, it seems like the crisis management is a little bit off as well. Like, if he would just lift up that command center, puts it in his main, and just like sit behind your depot, let those 16 Marines in an exposed Protoss base with no photon overcharge, they can kill everything within a minute, and then the Protoss is extremely all in. He has to go past supply depots. He has to fight against 40, 50 SCVs.
And the Widow mines eventually coming out too.
There's like no way. And now this moment, that game actually got relatively close at a certain point, which it never should have been close. If you kill 18 workers in an 8-minute game, that game should not be close in a million years.
And it's like, well, you don't really have much of an economy, but somehow I'm just going to donate, 20 army supply, let you pick off every medevac.
Yeah, I'm going to pick my units.
You could kill all my SCVs and my natural too. That sounds fine as well.
Like, even if he would have left those 16 Marines in the main base and he would fight that army that was recalled, he's still going to get a couple Stalkers. He's still going to get a couple of...
he can at least trade his forces.
Yeah, he can trade, and he can still sacrifice the Marines, but then fly away with the medevacs. That if the Stalkers want to chase those medevacs, they blink past the Marines. Then the Marines can get a couple of guaranteed kills. But he lost everything, and he didn't even trade for anything. Like, I'm a little bit shocked to see how these games have played out so far.
It's been weird. We're tied up 1 apiece. We are going to Iron Fortress, a pretty interesting map as far as TvP goes at third base. Super exposed. I think there's big opportunities here for drops. But, I mean, these games have been all about the early game, the early mid-game, at least so far in this series.
I mean, Iron Fortress is definitely the wildest map, I would say, out of the three. Like Echo and Coda are very similar, identical, and they play out in such similar and often linear ways. Iron Fortress is a 4-player map that already allows you to do something that's a little more crazy.
You don't know where the other guy is at the beginning.
Exactly, you don't know where he is. You can like start gambling a little bit with your proxies. There are people who think a 33% chance of knowing where your opponent is good enough for me, or 66 for that matter. So a lot of crazy things can happen on this map.
That's right. Very interested to see where our Protoss player takes it. The underdog of this group. Spawning in the northwest position in blue, he's GunGFuBanDa.
And a former DreamHack champion, one of the absolute favorites for Season 1, and I would still say for Season 2 as well, is Millennium's very own ForGG. You know, Nate, I'm definitely not going to be overly critical. We're just starting a 3-day non-stop action-packed StarCraft II weekend, but I am not impressed so far. If I could pull a Michaela Maroney face, I would do it, because I'm not impressed.
It's definitely been a lot of sloppy moves on both sides so far in this series, and you know, it's players warming up, players getting ready to compete. But at this, you don't want your warm-up game to be the one that puts you into the lower bracket match.
I mean, like if you look at the other two players in this group, we're looking at Bunny, we're looking at Hydra. I feel that both of these guys, I mean, in particular ForGG, he really has to step it up. Otherwise, this could be a very early exit from WCS and a round of 16 exit in Season 2 after, I wouldn't say a disappointing Season 1, but, you know, it was a disappointing Season 1 because he came in as the big dog. He defeated some of the absolute best players in the world at DreamHack. Everyone looked at WCS, it's like, well, if you can win a DreamHack Winter, you can probably win WCS Season 1 because you only have a few Koreans to worry about. He went up against Bolt. He had a monstrous record against Bolt.
Yeah.
He won like the last 4 or 5 encounters. So losing against Bolt in Season 1, that was disappointing for ForGG. He's looking for a way to avenge himself in Season 2. But so far, it's going to have to be a lot better than that throughout the weekend. Of course, we're only 2 games in, and there's no man overboard. You know, all the ForGG fans out there.
That's right.
And I know that includes you as well, Nate. There's plenty of time for him to redeem himself and step up a level, but it has to get better.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're going to be looking to see, because if he brings this level of play against a player like Hydra, against a player like Bunny, it's much more likely that those two will be able to really, really take advantage of it. GunGFuBanDa himself, you know, playing a little bit, perhaps less than he would expect himself to be able to as well.
I mean, let's not forget, he kind of forgot the Mothership Core, and I know how bizarre that sounds. He did open a quick double gas on Coda, and if you open up with a super quick double gas, then of course that means that your Mothership Core is going to be a little bit later because you have less minerals, and he still dropped a very early Nexus. I think that Probe and Reaper somehow missed each other. That was quite funny.
Reaper jumped off the cliff, and the Probe was just like, please don't notice
Maybe
me.
he heard it. It's like a ninja in the night.
There are only so many moments in our lives, Roddy, where we hope that someone doesn't notice us. And that Probe, he had one of those moments.
Well, you know, ForGG is going to spot the Nexus. He's going to like, all right, everything is standard. This time, there's no way he's ever going to kill 5 probes. You know, best case scenario, I'd say he gets a probe over here, but even that is a little bit unlikely. I would even say he has to be careful over here, Nate. This Reaper is in a little bit of a pickle already. I think the Stalker should have taken the other way around.
Yeah, he could have tried to cut him off.
Yeah.
There's not too many directions that you can really go to get out of that natural expansion area, but ForGG's Reaper lives to fight another day, and already a significantly better start for GunGFuBanDa in Map 2. The Reaper did not kill anything, and he also didn't get a chance to stick around long enough to spot any tech that GunGFuBanDa may have been going for.
And his target is down. ForGG doesn't even know about that pylon, so he can't really throw down a scan in that area either.
That's a good point. When you're playing Terran, you know the Protoss has to build around those pylons, so you try to scan between all of them, but if you don't know there's a pylon, why would you scan there for tech?
Now, once again, there's a 3-Rex follow-up, and this is really cool because a lot of Terrans have gone back to this opening. You know, the factory follow-up after the command center has fallen, I wouldn't say out of fashion because you still see it all the time, but it's starting to become a little bit more even. You know, there were 2-3 weeks where everybody followed it up with the factory. You know, it was Reaper commands at the factory. You know, you could close your eyes, you know it was coming, and it was still going to be scary. Now a lot of Terrans go back to 3-Rex, and on this map, Nate, I kind of like it for the sole purpose of the fact that there is no ramp in the natural, so it's not that easy to force fill it off. And bio units, they can also see what they're running into rather than on a map like Echo.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to bring up that comparison, especially when we think about GunGFuBanDa trying to press up that ramp without vision on Coda, and that is such a huge thing to be able to actually take advantage of that positioning, and on this map, it's not a factor.
No, high ground is everything. If the same scenario as we had in the last game, would be on Iron Fortress, there's a good chance those Blink Stalkers will actually win the fight. It becomes 100 times easier for the Protoss to micro. Anyways, what is extremely important is that there is no engineering bay, there is no missile turret, these units are out of position. There's a Void Ray follow-up right now because GunGFuBanDa immediately realized, like, hey, you're opening up 3 racks. There's a good chance my Oracle is going to do a lot of damage. Come on, mate. You're wasting precious time over here.
ForGG opening up.
Bad.
He opened up with such confidence, such an aggressive strategy that he basically told himself, well, this doesn't look like a cheese. This doesn't look like a proxy Stargate. And it wasn't, but he just didn't know to check for the in-base Stargate. And now this Oracle comes in, cleans up several Marines, cleans up all the SCVs in the natural, and, you know, just raining terror.
Man, that eBay was so late. Even if you open up 3 racks for GG, you need to always be safe against an Oracle. That's almost, you know, that's like a given when you play against Protoss in this day and age. Look at the work account currently, 45 against 27. Stimpack is ready in 10 seconds, but he's actually already going in. Is there one more force field? No, there is not. So ForGG will be able to return the favor. Well, there is not a photon overcharge right now. There is a Void Ray on his way as well. Stimpack is ready though. He could potentially stim off the ramp, but he needs to do so much with his hit squad.
Yeah, I mean, he picked up a lot of very expensive units in those sentries, in that Mothership core, and the Void Ray steps up. You said it, Roddy. It's this Void Ray is actually very expensive too. Warps in a Zealot underneath. These Marines with no hit points will all be cleaned up. I believe the Oracle is still alive on the other side of the map, so he lost a lot of gas expensive units, but the Oracle can actually come in here and has enough energy. Oh, yeah, just enough to deny this for a little bit longer.
And this is actually just a great scenario for GunGFuBanDa over here. He has killed a ridiculous amount of well, 11. It is ridiculous in a 9-minute game.
For this early on, considering the number of resources of Marines and Marauders that he killed too.
And look at the follow-up. You know, he's making another Void Ray. He's going to have 2 Void Rays. He's just like, I killed a lot of SCPs. I'm just going to throw down a bunch of gateways. Do we have a pylon net on the map? No, but the first pylons are going down in the left center. That probe is making its way over.
He definitely cannot afford to take time to move out of his base, which means cleaning up those pylons is going to be really tough.
So okay, so ForGG sort of seemed to expect that something like this may go down, and he's going to start working on a wall off, because he's like, hey man, which Protoss ever makes Void Rays against Terrans unless you plan to go for some crazy all-in? So he has the right idea, but he needs more than this. He needs a missile turret, he needs another bunker, maybe even a wall of supply depots. If this Marine can somehow scout this army moving across the map, there's still a chance that ForGG holds, because, you know, there are medevacs on the way, and he has stim.
He's starting to realize
he needs more bunkers.
Yeah, he's got a Widow Mine being built out of this factory. The extra bunkers are on the way, but he's got a little bit of time before that's prepared.
Yeah, okay, and I was going for Penny. You kind of have to wait for that pylon, or do you want to wait or not? Like, no, he's just going to show his army immediately. ForGG needs to pull workers. There's a lot of force field available, there's a lot of Guardian Shield available, but the higher the Marine count goes, the more difficult this will get for the Protoss. But the Protoss still has quite a significant army supply advantage. Nate, it's all going to come down to this push. 1 mine is out, though.
Yeah, he does have that Widow Mine set up. The factory's going to be lifted off a lot. Good couple SCVs were picked off. There's still enough to try to repair. The 3 bunkers are ready. He's got stim pack.
Is there energy for Envision? Can we click on the Oracle real quick?
No, I don't think so. He's going to move forward with the first couple of force fields, pinches off a few SCVs, grabs some Marines. Some of the Marines are actually coming out of the ramp to help try and pick some of these off. The Guardian Shield is nice. The 3 Void Rays are really using that range advantage that they have with the Stalkers over the Marines.
Yeah, great hold position. So far, none of these Protoss units are dying. ForGG is down to 49 supply. Nate, I think we are potentially looking over here at one of the very first big upsets.
The first upset of the tournament by far.
In the first series of the tournament, you know, who would have possibly thought that GunGFuBanDa was going to take out ForGG in his first series of this tournament? We looked at this group, everybody called it the group of death, but not for the reason that GunGFuBanDa's in it, but for the other 3 players. And this would be a miraculous hold if ForGG somehow holds this.
Yeah, he force fields the ramp. SCV's tried to come down, but the first bunker's knocked down. The second bunker knocked down just barely. Any hit points on these Marines as they're cleaned up. Additional warpins coming in for GunGFuBanDa, now up 91 supply to 24. GG's called. GunGFuBanDa takes the first series here at the round of 16 for the World Championship Series Season 2 Finals. And that's got to feel good, Kev.
I mean, it's going to feel extremely good for him. I have to admit, I'm a little bit in shock. I did not expect the series to play out like this. I did not expect the builds that we saw. But overall, it was just like greatly solid execution from GunGFuBanDa. Even that final push, he was in a great position. He had an overwhelming army, but it's still very easy to go for a bunker that you can't kill, or, you know, lose a few too many units to a Widow Mine. But great force fields, hold position, Guardian Shield, Void Ray charge, hold back. He just did everything right.
When I think about the story of this tournament and, you know, having someone like GunGFuBanDa in a group like this, he did exactly what he needed to do against someone like ForGG. You know, the aggressive openings, looking to get damage done, but GunGFuBanDa, every time those big pushes came, that big Marine tank push, he responded perfectly with what he scouted, even if his Oracle didn't do damage. In this game, he was able to do damage, and he knew that his follow-up after killing so many Marines, like, I actually do have an opportunity where I can just try to kill him. And it's that decision-making like that that prevents players from, like ForGG, from just, macroing really, really hard for a couple minutes, building up a good army, and then making the game even again.
I'm trying to imagine what ForGG was thinking in game number 3 of, he was obviously quite sure that he was not playing against a Stargate. I'm just kind of wonder why he felt like that. There wasn't really anything that was truly saying like, okay, this guy is definitely not going for a Stargate because I already scouted the Twilight or I already scouted the robotics facility. Maybe he's done his homework and he just felt that GunGFuBanDa is not the type of Protoss that often opens up with a Stargate. But, as a Terran player on this level, Nate, WCS, round of 16, how can you send your Marines across the map? Well, there's always that potential of an Oracle opening, and it's so popular in this day and age.
It's really risky. Pushing out across the map, usually in the old days, we would watch most Korean Terran players, they build the engineering bay.
Very early.
They start the turret as they move out. So worst case scenario, the turret's on the way when the Marines leave, but not even having the engineering bay. ForGG really cut one too many corners in that series.
Well, Group A was already going to be crazy, Nate, with Bunny, Hydra, ForGG, but it just became a lot crazier as the German Protoss GunGFuBanDa wins the first series of the day, and in all honesty, it's very well deserved. I think he played better. I think even in the game that he lost, that was just like, the start was ridiculous, and even that game got close. That was just an absolutely horrendous start for him, but that still got relatively close, so he deserved it. He's moving on, and right now he's only one best of 3 away from making it into the WCS round of 8.
Yeah, and for those of you that are interested in knowing what the next match on this stream will be, it's going to be Harstem up against Pult. Going to be in some PVT action, the champion of Season 1.
That's going to be sick as well. It's, I think, the first time that Harstem makes it to round of 16, or at least the first time that he's going to play on a stage like this. He had a very good run quite recently at DreamHack, made it to the quarterfinals, but there is no tournament around where Paul didn't have a good run in. Like, Paul has had good runs pretty much everywhere, and in particular in WCS, so that's going to be one hell of a match. And let's not forget about that all-French encounter as well between Marine Lord and Firecake. Definitely a little bit of a grudge match if you're familiar with the French scene, and I think a very good TVZ as well.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty interesting group. And, of course, very interesting to see how Group A resolves itself now that we've thrown in the wrench of GunGFuBanDa actually kicking ForGG to the lower match.
I mean, like, this is also crazy as well for Hydra vs. Bunny. That's a series that's currently still going on the mainstream. But the loser of that series has to play for its tournament live already against ForGG. And we all know how good ForGG is. But if I look at this series and I'm GunGFuBanDa, I was like, well, I wouldn't actually mind playing him again because I think I can do this all over.
It's weird to say that after the first match, we know for sure that either ForGG, Bunny, or Hydra are being eliminated. Straight up. One of them's got to go now. That's pretty crazy.
Well, fantasy brackets are not completely ruined yet, but there's a good chance a lot of them will be after Group A is done. Because if the German Protoss makes it out, I mean, maybe 1 out of 15 people would have predicted that, but not more than that.
Yeah. Absolutely insane result, honestly, to start things up. So as we move forward with the resolution of Bunny versus Hydra and we get prepared to move into Group B, we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, probably be after the resolution of this match. And we'll try to do our best to stay in sync with the mainstream. Thanks so much for tuning in. You're watching the World Championship Series Season 2 Finals.